Oh my god. What an amazing ending to that episode. That was spectacular. I am so excited for what is to come on The Walking Dead after I just saw the last couple scenes of that episode. Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring you an amazing review for The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 10, which was The Next World. Was a pretty decent episode. It lacked in a couple of areas, but I'm going to tell you what, they knocked it out of the park with that ending. That was amazing. I'm going to give you a big warning. If you have not seen this episode and you don't want to be spoiled in any way, exit the video now and come back later, because otherwise you are going to get majorly spoiled. Okay. So the big moment, Rick and Michonne had physical relations and seemed to be an item on the show. Wow. I mean, a lot of us have been saying for a while that we have been wanting to see Rick and Michonne get together, that was something that a lot of people had been secretly wishing, that they had posted these long articles on why they thought Rick and Michonne should be together, that they would be an amazing couple. And, you know, we don't really know what the status of their relationship is. Has it been going on for a while? When did the interest start to kick in? What exactly was going on? But I think there was more than just, just something that they needed in the moment. There seemed to be some real passion there. They were sitting on the sofa talking about the days that they had had. They were looking at baby Judith on the baby monitor. Rick hands her these mints because Michonne at the beginning of the episode had asked for toothpaste, and it got on from there. They were holding hands. They start to kiss passionately, and by the end scene, you see them laying in bed, covered by the blanket, after having physical relations. I mean, wow, that was awesome. And I can only imagine where that's going to go in these next couple of episodes. If you're familiar with the comics, this is somewhat based off of something that happened in the comics. Rick and Andrea, who was unfortunately killed off the show in season 3, is still alive in the comics. And during this time period, Rick and Andrea actually do get together. It's kind of out of the blue. We really don't see this coming until it actually happens. Because they had been surviving for a while. They both had a lot of things that, they had survived through together. They were, good fighters. They understood each other. They both had very similar outlooks, and it really drew them together. And I think that it really, made sense for the show to follow this. I think that it's very nice to see Rick and Michonne together. I think it's been something that, maybe they've been looking into since the audience wanted it, but also because they were coming up to that point in the comic books, and maybe seeing if there was some way that a romance could be inserted into the television show. And I think that they did very well with that. I mean, I think they shocked us very much. They made us very happy. I can only imagine what they're going to talk about on it on Talking Dead, news articles, Rick and Michonne's actors. What are they going to say? I'm very interested in looking forward to their relationship and seeing where it's going to go. Is this something that the two of them are going to be committed to, or are they going to find that maybe it isn't for them? Hard to say. And we really don't know the history of anything either, because several weeks have passed between the 9th and 10th episodes. So it does make you wonder. But nonetheless, I'm looking forward to what they are going to do with that storyline, and that was amazing. Kudos to The Walking Dead. That was awesome. As for the rest of the episode, it was actually, pretty decent. It wasn't terrible by any means, but you found that there was a lot of repetitiveness in it. A couple of scenes that weren't as exciting, kind of stories that may have been used in the past, but I think a lot of it flowed well together. And I think that it really did a good job of closing off some other storylines as well as setting up some new ones. And the big one was Rick and Daryl. In the episode, they end up going off to look for supplies, which was indicated in the description of the episode and the promo. And they're hoping to make other people in the community happy, as well as get supplies necessary for survival. Denise asks Daryl if he can get some soda, or in what she says, pop, for Tara, because apparently Tara has been wishing for pop in her sleep. And it definitely shows that Denise and Tara have grown closer as a couple, and are taking steps forward with that. And Denise wanted to surprise Tara with a can or bottle of soda, and Daryl says, "Sure, I'll do that." And of course, Rick is looking for some toothpaste for Michonne. And at the beginning of the episode, you saw Rick and Michonne in the same house, and Michonne had gotten out of the shower. She was in her, I think it was a bathrobe and a towel, and Judith was there playing, and Carl was in the other room throwing a tennis ball against the wall to work on his eye, physical therapy. He is doing well for the most part. He's up on his feet. He's back doing pretty much what he normally had been doing. So, there's kind of a couple of signs there at the beginning. Like when you hook everything up as you go along, it totally makes sense what the story was. But at the beginning you thought, hey, they're all just living in the same house, they're friends, they're survivors, they're family, So really you didn't see that coming at the end until it actually happened. But Rick and Daryl go out, and we start to see the two of them really interacting in a very awesome way. It was nice for them to be able to relax a little bit, but at the same time still keep their guards up as they're going outside of the walls. They were joking around about who was going to, play what on the radio, and, when they get out there, they actually find a truck that is full of supplies. So it's a success already. And they drive on, and they come to this gas station, and while they're going through a vending machine to get some soda for Denise to give to Tara, a man comes out of the, just out of the blue. He comes out around the corner. Rick and Daryl pull their guns on him. They want to know who he is. And, you saw that both parties were, in a sense, interested in what the other had to say, but at the same time were guarded. You had Rick and Daryl also kind of clashing about how to deal with the guy. And of course, the man revealed himself to be Paul, I think his last name was Rovier or something, but his friends call him Jesus. So this is Jesus from the comic books. He's a very big comic book character that appears around this time. And, they basically talk to each other, and, Jesus warns Rick and Daryl that some walkers are coming, a big group, and they might want to get out of there. Rick wants to question Jesus to learn a little bit more about him, potentially see if he could recruit him for Alexandria. And Daryl stops him. He says, no, don't, we don't want him. And it kind of shows, the conflict of the episode, which is something that I predicted Daryl would be feeling after what has happened to him, is Daryl wasn't really open to recruiting. Rick was, Rick is kind of understood, they really reversed roles. At the beginning of the season, Rick didn't want to recruit, Daryl did. Now they're in this position where Rick wanted to recruit, and Daryl was kind of just like, no, leave Jesus behind. We don't want to deal with him. So it was very interesting to see that dynamic flipped. And what we find is that Jesus is actually trying to get the truck as well. And he does succeed in doing so. He tricks Rick and Daryl, is able to get in the truck and drive away. And then we get later on down the road where Rick and Daryl have caught up to Jesus, and they basically take the truck back, but not without a fight. We've known from the comic books that Jesus is very agile, if you will. He's very physical. He's able to, fight off people with his bare hands and feet. And he was really, doing a good job of defending himself from Rick and Daryl. But Rick and Daryl were able to get the upper hand on him, and they basically tie him up. And they're a little uncertain about what to do, but Daryl kind of says, "No, I mean, we don't want anything to do with this guy. Let's just leave him. I mean, he fought us. He can't be trusted." So, Jesus actually wanted to maybe talk with them for a little bit, but they pretty much closed off that avenue. And it was a very epic moment because they're holding guns on Jesus, and Jesus says, "Oh, those probably aren't even loaded anyways." And Rick and Daryl shoot a walker both at the same time while the walker was coming out of the woods. It was pretty humorous because they look at each other, maybe, concerned that they wasted a bullet in some respects. But they end up driving off, and Rick didn't tie the knots very tight because he wanted Jesus to be able to free himself and get away. He didn't want to kill him, but Jesus is able to get the bonds loose earlier than what Rick had hoped, and he ends up getting on the roof of the truck. Rick and Daryl end up going to this farm. They hear banging on the roof, and they go, "Oh, he's up there." So they, speed up, slam on the brakes. He goes flying off. And then it's basically Daryl chasing after Jesus to, go after him while Rick subdues some walkers in the nearby area. Jesus tries to take the truck again, but Daryl's right on his tail. He won't let, Jesus do this. And basically, Jesus actually saves Daryl from a walker. But the truck ends up going back into the river. It goes down an embankment, and actually the door hits Jesus on the head and knocks him out cold, and the truck ends up going into the water. So everybody loses the supplies, and Daryl's making statements about wanting to, string Jesus up on a tree and just leave him, and Rick is like, "No, we're not going to do that." And he's able to thankfully talk Daryl out of doing that. And they end up taking him back to Alexandria as a prisoner. And you have Rick and Daryl actually, talking about their differences, and Rick kind of reminding him, like, "No, you were right. Then we need to recruit. We need to make this community stronger. You, Michonne, Glenn, you guys all were trying to make me see this, and I finally seen it." So it was really nice to see, the progression that Rick has made. I mean, Rick is really, he's come a long way since the way he was coming into season 5 and the early part of season 6. So it was pretty entertaining to see his progress, and I'll be interested to see how he's going to be when we get to the next episode. But the other big parts of the episode dealt with Michonne and Spencer, as well as a little bit with Carl and Enid. What we had with Carl and Enid was the two of them end up going out into the woods to have another adventure. And, they were pretty much just out there reading comic books. And earlier in the episode, Enid had talked to Maggie, and Maggie was like, "Hey, you just disappear and we don't see you. Come around, you don't have to, be by yourself all the time." And I don't know if that really struck a nerve with her, but she suddenly didn't want to be outside the walls anymore. She told Carl she didn't want to be out there anymore. The two of them start to go back, and they run into a walker. And, Carl ended up earlier seeing Michonne and Spencer walking around, and he didn't want to leave the walker out there for, potential trouble. So Carl ends up leading the walker away when he sees who it is, because it's actually a person that they knew before as a person. And Enid's kind of upset. She's like, "Carl, just leave it alone or kill it. Like, what are you doing?" And, they almost get bit because of them arguing. And Carl basically yells at Enid and tells her, "Look, you don't want to be out here anymore? Just leave. I got this. I know what I'm doing." And what ended up happening was earlier, Michonne saw Spencer walking around, and Michonne went out to see what he was doing, and Spencer said that he had some unfinished business to take care of. He goes out, and, Michonne ends up seeing what Carl is doing, and they end up running into, you guessed it, Walker Deanna. Deanna as a walker, who was, of course, Spencer's mother. And Spencer tells Michonne, you know, I thought I saw her amongst the herd when we were killing them in Alexandria, and I was coming out here to try to find her, and I finally succeeded. And, he wanted to put her down, put her out of her misery, and Michonne helps him with that. And after they bury Deanna, we see Michonne, trying to give some guidance to Spencer. She tells him about how Deanna really, influenced her, tried to help her, and she hopes, I think, to do the same for him, and to really convince him that, this is a community that needs him, that could really use his skills, and that he has a family. He doesn't have to feel alone. She knows that he just lost his entire family, and I think that, she was there to help him with what he needed to do and to show him, that they're all a community, they're all a family now, and she hopes that he can, feel that way with this. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Spencer, because his comic book character definitely takes a little bit of a darker turn later on in the series, and it really makes me wonder what he's going to do, because he wasn't totally sold on the idea, but we also saw that he was in a sense appreciative of what Michonne did for him. And then the very, very end of the episode, Michonne actually confronts Carl about what he was doing, and Carl said, look, the reason why I was doing it, it wasn't a game. I wasn't trying to, fool around. I just felt like, Deanna should be killed by somebody that cared about her, and that he would do the same thing for Michonne if that ever happened to her. And Michonne really comes to understand that, and understand his motivations, because Carl, was basically telling Enid earlier, you wouldn't understand. Like, just go back to the community. You would not understand what I'm trying to do here. But we finally understand at this point. And then the very last scene after Michonne and Rick had physical relations, they were laying in bed, and Jesus came into the room. Originally, they had put Jesus in the same room that the wolf was in, but of course, we know that Jesus is, an escape artist. I mean, this guy's absolutely incredible. Comes into the room, wakes Rick and Michonne up. Rick and Michonne stand up, naked, and are holding, their weapons at him. And Jesus basically states that we need to talk. So I think that a lot is going to happen in this very next episode. They seem to be hinting at some things with them going to the Hilltop community where Jesus is from in the comics. And there's a very good chance that we might see the community either in the next episode or maybe the 12th episode. We'll have to wait and see. But that was, again, an amazing ending for sure. A lot of the elements, again, felt like they had been utilized before, but it wasn't a terrible episode. And I do look forward to what they have to show us in the next episode. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't be afraid to suggest them. Have a very wonderful evening, and thank you all very much for watching.